The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
And welcome once again to On Cue. On today's program, Judge Donald Rysavy joins us to talk about his tenure on the bench here in Mower County. Then Lisa Clark with Destination Medical Center, the Economic Development Agency, is here with an update on this enormous, wide-reaching initiative for our region. And Karissa Studier tells us about the SHIP Vision 2020 partnership. Stay with us. On Cue is next.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
Judge Donald Rysavy served more than 18 years as a judge in Mower County following a distinguished career with a local law firm. He's here today to share a few insights and perspectives from the bench as he retires. Welcome, sir. Your Honor. Good to have you here. And congratulations on your career, both as a lawyer and then as a judge here in Mower County. It's been quite a long ride.
Thanks. It has, and I have to be really thankful that I had the opportunity in both halves of my legal career. And I'm very, very pleased with the way things turned out.
I'm just a practical matter as a judge. When you're named a judge, you were named by Governor Arne Carlson, right?
Correct.
In 1990, early 90s, sometime.
95.
When he was serving as governor. But when you get that nomination, you go through the process. Is there classes or training classes for the change from representing a client, even if you're a sound political and judicial mind, as I'm sure you are, are there classes or training?
There are definitely classes. There is a National Institute, Judicial College. Unfortunately, when I came on board in 1995, they had just discontinued Minnesota's funding for that. So we were part of an experiment. We had a local judicial college, which did basically what you're talking about.
And I don't mean any disrespect by that at all. Just the function of that position, it's such a change.
That is the big transition that every new judge goes through. The two people that have come in for Judge Wellman and myself recently been appointed and sworn in have both voiced the tremendous difficulty in going from being an advocate to a referee, to assessing both sides and making a decision without advocacy. And that is a transition. But being a judge has a lot of ins and outs technically that you really have to learn. The transition philosophically is one that you only accomplish by doing.
Because, if you're a person living in society in this community, you're going to have experiences that someone could say, coloring your judgment.
You are a person. You come from varied backgrounds. You come from different experiences. You bring those things with you. You have to rely on your sworn oath of office to be impartial. Sometimes there are direct conflicts and you have to step down. I don't think that situation is a direct conflict. That's more of a perceived issue.
Mm-hmm. How did you grew up in Owatonna, was there one moment or experience that encouraged you to pursue a career in law?
That's a funny story. I would love to say that I was a champion of the downtrodden or whatever. To tell the truth, I came out of college knowing that I had some talents with regard to my memory and with regard to verbal skills and reasoning skills. and didn't have a clue what I wanted to do with my life. And my best friend, who is still one of my best friends, had his route all mapped out. He wanted to become an FBI agent, so the best route to do that was to go to law school. I said, I don't know what I want to do, maybe I'll go to law school. And as I went through the process, I realized it fit my skill set perhaps better than anything that I could have planned for, and that's how it happened. More accident than planned.
I see when we watch judges or courtroom or shows, you see that person, that foreboding person up in the black robe, but you have said that you see being a judge as being in the people business. Can you talk a little bit about that, as opposed to the image I have of the person, the inquisitor up on the bench, separated from people?
I think that is perhaps one tremendous advantage of being somewhat of an introvert, which I am. People wouldn't necessarily recognize that, but I am. And I remember so much about my own perceptions of authority and my own experiences. And I told myself, when I become a judge, I want to never forget what it was like to be on the other side, because you are serving the people on the other side. It's not about you, it is about their disputes, it is about their rights, their lives, and you have to internalize that as a judge. It is not about you. It's not a big show where you're the star character. You are simply there to do service.
And you have to get that mindset, because you're always disappointing someone, I would imagine, because there's always two sides, and there's a sad group that didn't get, and sometimes that can be really heartbreaking.
That was one of the issues of kind of back hall humor that we go through. It's like, first of all, you know in advance that 50% of the people will not be happy, and in probably another 50% of the cases, neither side will be happy.
Oh.
It's one of those things where people come to court for different reasons, and sometimes there is never satisfaction. Other times there are, and you take the nuggets, the times when you know you made the right decision and people are happy with that right decision. That's what keeps you going.
We're talking with Judge Donald Rysavy, Mower County judge, retired this year, about his long, distinguished career on the bench and as a lawyer. And you mentioned that, you just touched on that. Do you hear back once in a while from folks that maybe got a difficult sentence or something, but they learned from it and give you some thanks?
When I talked about nuggets, that's exactly prime example. The other day I was on the street and ran into a guy walking his dog, and I recognized him, and he said, "Hey, Judge, I haven't been in trouble for 2 years. You really helped when you told me you're either going to treatment or you're going to prison." And that certainly wasn't easy for him, but he managed to get it done. And whether or not I was responsible for that, just thanking me was something that told me, okay, there are those times when you can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. It is a people business. It's fascinating discussion. Thank you, Judge Donald Rysavy, for your service and for a rare peek in what goes on in court. Thank you very much, and enjoy your retirement.
I have been doing that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Stay with us. Lisa Clark from Destination Medical Center will join me next.
You You can watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ TV website, ksmq.org.
And welcome back to On Cue. I'm your host, Eric Olson. We're going to talk now about something very exciting, of course, economic development in our whole region, especially Rochester with the Destination Medical Center project. And Lisa Clark joins us, Executive Director of DMC. So glad to have you here.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
You bet. And please update us or brief us on the overall mission of DMC, because it's such a large project. We've heard a lot about it. Re-inform the viewers about it.
Well, DMC is such an exciting opportunity for Rochester and for the state of Minnesota, basically. And it is an economic development initiative, and it's positioned to make sure that Rochester is the global destination healthcare center, so globally. It's a public-private partnership, so it depends on private dollars and it depends on public dollars. And it's truly positioning Rochester for growth and for strength.
So when my relatives and when I come back in Rochester, if I went away and came back in 10 years, the city downtown is not going to look the same as it did.
I don't think the city's going to look the same at all. What the city will do is remain, it will keep the wonderful charm that it has, but I think what we're going to do is use the assets of Rochester and build upon those. So it will look more vibrant, it'll be more livable, the street activation will be much greater, and I actually think it will have many more amenities.
Rochester's competing not only with the metro area,
right?
Minneapolis and St. Paul, because nowadays folks will drive up there for dinner and come back maybe. Mm-hmm. We want to provide those opportunities here, but also from a medical standpoint, there's competition from other United States institutions, Cleveland, wherever else, and so we need to stay abreast of what they're doing and make it better.
You're absolutely right. The global healthcare environment has changed drastically. Other healthcare organizations are doing something like Destination Medical Center. They're creating strength in their communities and wrapping it around their healthcare organizations. And that's what we're going to do as well. And
there's a research piece to this too. Some of our viewers may recall President John Noseworthy, when the bill was before the legislature,
right,
talked about the jobs coming and the research component to DMC, and that it was an important thing for Minnesota because there are other facilities around the country that could take advantage of these jobs that are coming. Talk about that a little bit.
So we want to drive businesses to Rochester, and to do that we need to make sure that we have the ecosystem that any business would want when they come to Rochester. So we want to drive talent, we want to drive businesses. And when businesses come to downtown areas, they want a very busy downtown. They want to be right next to, in our case, Mayo Clinic. So if you're a researcher or you're a company that wants to do some type of new innovation, you want to be next to the researchers. So if we can drive those businesses and keep them in Rochester, rather than have any innovation or new business that we're creating in Rochester spin off to the coasts, that's what we want to do. We want to keep the jobs here, we want to grow jobs here, and we want to grow business here.
So it will be not a Mayo institution, but a lot of other companies.
Right. So Mayo will continue to grow in Rochester. We believe that we will be growing to the tune of about $3 billion over the next 20 years. We think what we can do is garner $2 billion other private investment from that, and then we've got the $585 million in public investment that will help to support all of this growth. So you take the private growth, the private and the public growth, and surround it with Mayo Clinic's growth, and I think we've got the makings for an incredible destination medical center.
We're talking with Lisa Clark, Executive Director of DMC Economic Development Agency here on Cue. You've had several public forums where you've invited folks to just give opinions and talk about the projects. What's been the most interesting thing that you've learned?
Well, we've been asking for public input for probably over 5 years now, and it's been fascinating. I mean, people have ideas from every walk of life that you can imagine. I think all the ideas have been wonderful. All of the ideas we take and we inform our planners as they're building out this Destination Medical Center plan.
As far as retail goes, I mean, sure, every community would like more dining options, for example, not to pick on food, but,
Yeah.
But wouldn't the market already take care of a lot of that stuff? In other words, if there was a market for an X kind of cuisine, for example, wouldn't that already have been in place? And how do you grow that base in all of the retail that you're talking about?
Well, we did some original research, Eric, about a few years ago, and we really tried to figure out where the gaps were. So in Rochester, we did research with our patients, visitors, employees, community members, and business travelers. And what we learned very quickly is when you and I go to a particular community, there are certain things that we expect, certain types of dining. Maybe I want to go to a yoga class, business center. There were things that our patients and our employees actually and travelers weren't finding in Rochester. So what we did is identify that gap and figure out where are the gaps, how can we fill those gaps, how can the market fill those gaps, but how can we help the market in terms of filling the gap. So as Mayo grows, we want to make sure that the market keeps up with Mayo's growth.
And then how do those potential business people, how do they find out about, how do they engage, would you say, with DMC to get a handle on where they might fit in?
Well, they're already engaging, which is great.
At the hotels, I know.
Everybody's
they're
engaging.
What are there, 5 hotels going up in downtown now?
There are
something
hotels,
like
there are businesses,
Right.
Business owners. People are really starting to engage, which is fabulous. But what we're doing right now, in the last 8 months, we hired national planners in areas like infrastructure, master planning, like what are you going to build and what will it look like, economic planning, fiscal analysis planning, and transportation planning. So we bring all of these planners together every month. They canvass the community, learn information, do a data dump, pull it back together. We share it with the public. The public gives their input, they bring it back, and we plan more, and we come out in the public again.
But it'll all look different, so you're kind of dream imagining this.
So the concepts will start to form right now. So as we are going through this fall, the concepts are starting to form. The planners are showing pictures, if you will, of what could the concepts look like, what might the community of Rochester look like, and most importantly, is it going to drive jobs, is it going to drive business, is it going to deliver the economic impact that we really need to make sure that Rochester grows.
So how do you make sure that what the patients are asking for gets delivered? I mean, so it's easier for them. I mean, you have a system of subways now to walk around and things.
Right.
That's how they get around. How do you improve that, in the context of this overall huge plan?
Right. Well, we keep asking. We keep asking patients, and we keep getting input from the community and the patients. So the patients, seasonality is an issue. It's pretty tough to get around in Rochester sometimes when it's snowing, and people from other countries don't realize that you probably don't need a coat in Rochester once you get there. There are some things that we can change pretty quickly, and then there are some things that we need to build and we need to program. So it's one thing to build buildings, but it's another thing to make sure we're programming that so that these buildings are utilized the right way for our patient needs and for the community members.
What's the educational component? Are there partnerships, help me out on this, like with UMR or anything in that downtown area? I heard something about that.
Yes,
maybe.
so all of our partners in education, K through 12, continuing education, are all involved. They're all at the table helping us plan to see what the needs are for the educational opportunity. UMR is also doing a growth plan right now, and we're making sure that we connect with UMR for their growth and for the Mayo Clinic growth, as well as the DMC growth. So there's more planning going on in Rochester than you can ever imagine, which I think is great. And now what we need to do is make sure that we coordinate all the planning so that we're all facing the same direction.
Because I mentioned UMR just because they have a partnership, and that's their 2 programs are directly associated with Mayo, so they've kind of taken that medical piece. So I'm assuming that's going to grow.
Right. They plan to grow their programs, and we want to make sure that we're good partners with them. And so the needs that they have in terms of their growth might differ a bit from the needs DMC is finding, but we will make sure that they're complementary.
And going forward, what are there going to be other ways to learn besides the website? Are there public meetings?
Yeah, we've got lots of components of community engagement. So we've got a speakers bureau that we have people actually sharing the voice of DMC throughout the community, the region, and the state. We've done probably almost 400 different presentations all over this state, a lot in the Rochester area and the region. We also have our website so people can give information. We have a blog site, and then we have public forums. So these are large public forums. Our first one was in May, I believe, and that was 500 people that wanted to hear about the DMC, what is it, and how do I engage? And now we are continuing to do that. We've done several in the past since then, and we'll continue to do that throughout the next 20 years.
Well, a timeline, we touched on it earlier in the last 30 seconds. What's our short-term, long-term timeline?
So the plan itself, the development plan and the master plan, will be completed by the end of this year, which is wonderful. That's the plan people get to see and touch and feel and react to in terms of what will Rochester look like in the future. Then it goes into a 2-month vetting period in the city, and by the end of February, we hope that our boards and the city will approve the plan.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Very ambitious, Lisa.
It is very ambitious.
Thank you for your service in this project.
It's just wonderful. A joy. It's just a pleasure to do this. I have great passion for DMC, and it's an exciting time for Rochester and the state of Minnesota.
Lisa Clark, Executive Director, DMC Economic Development Agency, thank you for joining us on Q. Speaking of development, coming up next, our Vision 2020 weekly update. Stay with us.
Queue up your own comments for On Q and send them to us at onq@ksmq.org. On Q's Vision 2020 segment is brought to you by Hormel Foundation, Games People Play, and Turtle Creek Estates.
And welcome back. Time now for our Vision 2020 segment, and Karissa Studier joins us from the SHIP program of Mower County, which stands for Statewide Health Improvement Program, and you're working with Vision 2020 and a lot of other partners to try and get us healthier.
Yes, actually SHIP stands for, like you said, the Statewide Health Improvement Program, and its focus is to decrease chronic disease and decrease healthcare costs throughout Minnesota. So it's actually a grant through the Department of Health that Mower County received. So we started in July, and it's going through October of next year.
And are you doing a lot of, how are you trying to get this mission accomplished? What do you do? Right,
so it's actually collaborating with many different organizations throughout the county, working to improve healthier eating, improve physical activity, and then reducing tobacco use and exposure. Those 3 factors actually are the causes of a lot of chronic diseases that we see, which are diabetes, cancer, heart disease, those types of things. So.
And how will you work in Mower County to do that? Are you handing out pamphlets or educating?
It's actually focusing on environmental and system changes, which are evidence-based to be proven more sustainable over time. So, such as working with Vision 2020, we're increasing some bike trail signage throughout the city of Austin, helping people possibly use those trails, whether it's to get to work or to get to school or to get to the library, kind of increasing that physical activity that way. Another way that we're doing that is through like Bike Safety Day, working with Vision 2020 as well, increasing the awareness of biking and physical activity and those kinds of things.
And then the smoking too.
Right.
Or tobacco use.
Right. We're actually contracting with the American Lung Association, so they're going to be doing a survey with rental housing units throughout the county and seeing if there's anyone interested in actually looking at smoke-free policies or things like that to reduce the exposure of tenants within the rental housing units.
So. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So through the signage, you'll get people, the thought is more people will take their bikes or walk to work because it's more convenient for them, and then through that process, they will have better outcomes from a health standpoint, long term.
Correct. Yep. So it's kind of making the healthier choice the easy choice. So if there's not a trail signage to know, well, you use the sidewalk here to stay on the trail, or you keep going on the trail and turn left here to get to Todd Park or something like that. It makes it easier for people to get to key point destinations throughout the city of Austin.
And you're a busy person. You just started, July?
July.
Just started?
Correct.
And it's a 2-year grant from the state. which all counties are participating in, talking about the SHIP program.
Correct.
And then are they gathering information? How will we know if we're healthier?
So actually throughout Mower County, we did a community health needs assessment back in 2013. And so that's where we kind of gauged what Mower County citizens recognized as needs throughout the community. So we actually have 10 top health needs that Mower County citizens have identified, those including like obesity, diabetes, things like that that are directly related to SHIP. So towards the end of our grant period, we're hoping to redo that assessment again to kind of gauge where we're at and get more of a baseline of what Mower County citizens are needing or thinking are needs within the community. So,
oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your work in the community.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited to keep going on it. So.
And happy to have you here.
Yeah,
also,
thank you.
Here on Q. Karissa Studier from the Statewide Health Improvement Program, Mower County SHIP, collaborating with Vision 2020.
Thank you.
And that'll do it for our program this time around. I'm Eric Olson. We'll see you next time on Q.
On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.